Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'll be facing off against none other than Flower Fairy, the highest rated player in Mechabellum. I mean, not just now, but almost for the past year or 2 years, I would say, often battling with the likes of Fung, also known as Red Hair, and Sacco, but yeah, an absolute beast and goat of the game. And while we had the pleasure of actually facing him on ladder, playing a relatively uncommon comp at High Mamar, the Fang carry. And yeah, well, I thought let's showcase it because it is quite a fun one. Now, I start with Fire Badger Specialist, my opponent is a Giant Spec, and I start with Sabertooth and Hound. It's not my favorite pack, I haven't necessarily had the most success with it, although I do know some other high-rated players like this and get good results with it. Talking about people like Forgotten Arbiter, for instance. So, yeah, I decided to pick it up. I wanted to maybe try out Fire Badger as well, if I could. I've seen some 201 players try out some Sabertooth and Fire Badger games, which didn't look too bad, so that was what I was aiming for. I also know that Fairy loves to play defensive, and I like to create an imbalance. So if I know my opponent likes defending, I don't mind pushing into them that much. And if I know that the opponent likes to push, I don't mind to defend. That way, both of us have, you know, different lines that we can go for and have often got multiple opportunities to kind of, you know, twist and turn the game in our favor. Now, I decide to push on the right side here, which is not where Fairy is. This is one of the new map layouts, I believe. And, well, he guessed incorrectly. Tried to stack the left side, guessed wrong. In this instance, it's actually quite good for me because I have the wall here to stall. You can see the arc lights and sledgehammers are not that quick, and it takes a while for him to get to, you know, my tower and get any pressure going with the tower debuff. We're already like all the way up to the left. We might not get that tower though, as both of my sabers have decided to go towards the middle, but it doesn't really matter too much as, well, they're sabers against sledgehammers and arc lights. He doesn't have any damage for the time being, and yeah, we do win the first round kind of as expected here. Round number 2, and this is where things get interesting. Redeploy gets offered, Wasp Swarm gets offered. I mean, two great cards. Redeploy is fantastic for aggro. You can make a lot of plays happen on the flanks. You can move around left to right and you know, deal with things like spells that sometimes are very annoying to deal with. Wasp Swarm is something that you have to actively think about. How are you going to deal with it? If the opponent picks it, I mean, my backline is fully vulnerable to it. However, I see the Elite Fang card, and I think to myself, is this bait, or is it actually kind of playable here? And so I said to myself, you know what, let's just give it a go. It's unconventional. Typically, you would maybe go for something like a Phoenix, make sure that you have some anti-air, but the Fangs kind of block all of those things, because now I'm able to deal with the Wasp Swarm. I put 2 Fangs all the way in the back, so he cannot wasp me and take my towers. If he buys a Phoenix, I have some anti-air to deal with it. Fangs are pretty good against that type of play. And, I mean, long term, I don't mind playing Fang carry into things like Sledgehammer and Arclight. They don't really counter that strat very well. It's more so things like the Mustangs that do well into it. I also get to stall here on the left, so not only do I defend against the Wasp, I also have some late Fangs to kind of try and kill some of his units as they move in. You can see that more chaff has been added. Fairy went for the Photon Coating item, which I really did not expect, but I guess it does pair well with his Giant Spec, and he might be able to play something like a Worm or another very tanky unit kind of in my face with that item. Right side still doing well. Fairy adding a Crawler and an Arclight. Does pull over some of my units. You can see one lone Hound there going towards his tower, but that'll take a while to take down and get a debuff. Still, left side doing well, and my opponent doesn't really have DPS. Of course, the Chungus can, but thankfully it's stuck reloading for now. Hounds, one more, joins the fray, so we should eventually get this debuff. Left side, though, I will lose my tower first, but honestly, that's a good scenario. Oftentimes, getting the first debuff in these type of crossfire scenarios doesn't really do too much, and now we get the second one. We also don't make an amazing amount of value from that. But still, sabers, too tanky. Even getting some levels there, both of them getting a level. That is really, really scary for my opponent. Early leveled sabers are a menace still. They are harder to level up now than they were previously, but you get that early level, and there are few things in the game that can deal with it. Now, round number 3, sadly, Mustang shows up, and I was very unhappy about this because it's the best thing that could show up, right? I just kind of showcased that I wanted to get into Elite Fang. It's weird to only buy 2 of these at high level. So, yeah, a little bit tough. It allows Fairy to immediately get into another Mustang and grab the range enhancement, which normally they wouldn't have been able to afford. But, you know, that's life. We do get a Spider, which can tank nicely and should be able to deal with basically the entire left side here. And I get to buy more Fangs and range them. So, all in all, it's not the worst turn. Sadly, though, I don't have the levels here for the Sabers, and I kind of would like to pick them up. So I got a Fire Badger for my Specialist, and instead of throwing it on the flank and keeping my Spider over here, I kind of switch things up. I sell the Fire Badger so I can level both of my Sabers, and then I put that Tarantula all the way up in the left corner. And I mean, look at how many things it's pulling. It takes a while to spawn in, but there's no real DPS over there, so this should be able to chew through a good amount of the enemy forces. And in the meantime, we're pushing in on that right side. Lots more Fangs have been added. The Sabers, of course, great kind of tanks for the time being. I likely will need to add something else at some point, but for now, they're doing the job. Left side will crumble. Those ranged Mustangs do manage to beat my Fangs, although a well-timed debuff allows me to fight back. And I'm not feeling too bad now about this round. I mean, I know that I still have the big advantage here with the high-level Sabers, and despite, you know, the Mustangs showing up, I think I may be able to scale into the mid and late game. Fang carry is very, very good the longer the game goes. It's kind of that early game that tends to be a problem, and I don't have to deal with, you know, a lack of levels because I could just buy level 3 Fangs. Round number 4, I do get a great card here with the Advanced Power System. Very, very nice for aggro. Just generally pushing in is fantastic. And, I mean, these type of tankier units like, you know, the Sabers or Rhinos or Fortress, whatever you may play, love the speed to try and get to the towers a bit quicker. Opponent, though, gets a good item as well. Mustang Production Line. Those Mustangs will also have range. And he's a giant spec, so he gets to immediately unlock something for free and add it over there. So there we have it. A Fortress now picked up. He runs range, barrier, double shot, and anti-air barrage. Just straight up kind of, yeah, puts it right in front of my Tarantula. I did keep it there because I kind of wanted to call the bluff. Like, sometimes people will expect you to just sell that because it's the logical thing to do. Like, normally your opponent should defend against this, which he does, but some people won't. And I didn't really need the money right now. I'm able to get all the chaff that I need. One crawler up here, and I think another crawler over here, and I get a second tech on the Fangs, which is going to be Mech Rage. Now, often these days with Fang carry, I do pick Armor Piercing second because it's cheap, and it kind of gets the same job done. It's good enough to get you through the early to mid game and grab some levels, which is all that you need. Here, though, I had the money to spare for Mech Rage, and you do get that bonus movement speed. You do get the bonus attack speed, meaning that you kill more efficiently. And, yeah, I just, you know, I want to get Mech Rage eventually anyway, so why not spend the money now when I have it available? So, double tech it is. We do struggle a little bit. Right side, we still win. Left side, though, we have to deal with this Fortress spawning an infinite amount of Mustang. The Sabers are doing well. Maybe we can lock on at some point. A debuff would be fantastic. There we go. We do manage to take out that Fortress, but it levels before it falls. And while the tower goes down, my Fangs will win. But it's a very marginal victory at this point. Now, round number 5. And now I need to start thinking about how I want to deal with that Fortress. 2 more spawn items show up. Okay, and now I say to myself, we can't stay out of giants any longer. These spawn items are some of the strongest items in the game, period. Spawning units is just very, very good because you're deployment capped in this game every round. So being able to spawn an indefinite amount of, you know, steel balls or Mustang is really high value. And I go for a fortress as well. It's the most logical combination here with the fangs. I have a more battle-focused tech bar setup. So I have the same tech bar as he does. However, instead of having double shot, I have overload, which does give you about the same DPS, a little bit more. But what it also gives you is, again, a higher attack speed. And that means that the fortress can chaff clear a bit more quickly for itself, and that tends to give you the advantage long term against someone who would run double shot, because, well, double shot can waste a lot of its DPS on chaff, and it doesn't have the same attack speed as overload. Now, I decided to put the fortress on the right side here. I did mean to sell out of the sabers at some point, but for now they were still doing very well, so I didn't really want to commit to selling them. I mean, look at that, right? Top on damage, 21,000 damage on both. Last round, I felt like keeping them made a lot of sense. We do grab the steel ball production line, which I think is the best item. He picks the Mustang production because he happens to, need Mustang and he has the techs on them. But generally speaking, I would say steel ball production is the best out of the 3 items that exist. And yeah, also, if you want to use a production item, it's usually smart to put it kind of on the side of the board where it will get to spawn a lot of units. So put it on the side of the board where the enemy doesn't have a lot of units that can, immediately contest and take it out. Right side again, crushing here, doing very well. But you can see, right, what's happening on this left side where this fortress is very far removed from my main army, so I won't get to take it down, and because of that, you can see like how many Mustangs are getting spawned on repeat. A couple crawlers heading over to my tower here. That could be a problem, but maybe, just maybe, we can win this fight before that becomes an issue. We also get some tower pressure ourselves, which helps a ton. 9 seconds of debuff go our way, and indeed we are able to clean up before things get out of control. More steel balls still getting spawned here. As you can see, the sabers stay alive. Very happy about that. Means that we'll deal 200 more damage at the end of the round. And round 5 is a great success. Now we enter round number 6. So I'm very, very happy with how things have gone so far. I don't think the items or drops are necessarily favored, but that Elite Fang card has been paying off dividends, and, well, high-level Sabertooths that early on also just gain so much tempo, which is exactly what you want for a comp like this. Round number 6, Wraith shows up, Stormcallers picked up for Fairy, decides to, I think, sell one, and the other one is aimed at my tower to get a quick debuff there. Very cheeky play. It actually doesn't hit the wall either, so that's kind of an interesting tech. You can still put this on the line, and it dead zones itself regarding the wall that's there, so it will just shoot past straight into the tower. And now range gets picked up from my opponent. Now, I was expecting him to go for oil this round, which is why you see me beacon around. The reason why I thought he would do that is because I was very clumped. Last round, you could see all of my sabers and my fortress and my fangs were basically all, like, clumped together in this little spot. So I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to try and oil me and maybe light it on fire the next. That's why we're moving this around over to the left, trying to create some pressure over here and, yeah, avoid kind of his response. And it seems to be a decent play. Now, I do not have range right now on my units. I go for an armor play on the Wraith here in the top right corner because I felt like it was kind of worth it, and it'll require him to go for something like a melter, which, granted, he can buy for free, or at least unlock for free, but it also delays him from getting into more fortress techs, which he is very ahead of me now, right? 4 fortresses with range, I only have 2 without any techs, so there is that problem. But he doesn't have any anti-air, so this Wraith should just survive until the end of the round. And that buys me a pretty important turn, right? It means that I won't be taking tons and tons of damage here, because by the looks of things, I would have taken a beating on round 6. Now, the Steel Balls actually managed to take down a fortress, because the Wraith managed to get a debuff, and I will just win by default on this round. So, nice play there. Again, armor not that expensive. I was willing to spend it because I got the Wraith for free anyway. And again, it forces him out of a kind of comfort, right? A comfort line. By simply investing more into Mustang and into Fortress, I'm saying, well, you're gonna have to buy that melting point as well if you want to be able to kill this Wraith. And that's the thing about Fang carry, it doesn't care too much about these type of plays, even though Fangs and Mustang are somewhat similar in terms of, you know, large pack of units, and they shoot relatively fast. Fangs have way more attack value, and so they're less vulnerable to things like armor, which the Mustang can't say. Round number 7, Orbital Bombardment shows up. Nano Repair Kit as well, which is a nasty giant item. Lots and lots of those being dropped this game. And, oof, I mean, that's a tough choice. I decided to go for the Orbital after all. But I could have picked up the Nano for sure. Saber is now being sold. I mean, they're not doing too well, right? As soon as those leveled fortresses come out, and I haven't invested anything into techs, better to sell out of them instead of feeding a whole bunch of experience. And now I double tech my fortresses. I kind of have to do this because I need to be able to contest the enemy fortresses and start getting some levels myself. And right now I can't say I have those, right? 2 level 2 fortresses over here, another one over there. Opponent does pick up the melting point, so double melting point round from them, which again stalls them regarding the fortress mirror that's going on, which I'm quite happy with. Of course, melting points could be alright at some point versus Fortress. It is kind of meant to be the counter, but when I already have range and overload and I'm pushing in like this, it honestly, like, can still go my way. Fortresses are very, very scary when they're this close to the line. I'm also utilizing here the little corner, which is quite a safe spot to have a unit in. I can add some crawlers there at some point, kind of try to attack from the diagonal, and also avoid the oil for this round. This time I was kind of like, you know what, I don't think he's going to buy a fire unit because he kind of needs to deal with my Wraith. So I was fine with just pushing in over here despite the oil still being there. And yeah, let's see how this goes. The fortress, as you can see, clearing relatively well. Does lock onto the enemy fortress with the nano repair kit, but sadly the beacon means that it does die to the melting point. But look at that, left side, same thing, right? With the range, the overload, and the temp range, we managed to take down the melter on the left, which didn't have any techs. And things are looking quite good. Levels being picked up. Those high-level fortresses from my opponent that we killed give away a lot of experience, and now we're catching up in terms of fortress levels. Fangs, again, also providing great coverage. And round number 7, we managed to win. And now Fairy is starting to drop relatively low on hit points. 700 remaining. Round number 8, more unit reinforcements. Nothing in here really spoke to me. I don't need any of this. I could go for the marksman if I'm afraid of some type of air unit, but as I explained before, the Fangs don't really care about armored air units here. I mean, 282 damage, that's, you know, more than any armor unit will be able to block at this point, and, you know, no high-level units that could have armor were offered. So I simply pick up the Phoenix. I could sell it at some point. I could keep it around for DPS, which is, I think, what I go for. Levels now on all my fortresses. Important to do this. Temp range, temp speed. You need to remind yourself to pick those. And that's kind of it. I mean, I do need to have a crawler over here, ideally, because my opponent could put a melter or something to try and get a quick lock on. And of course, missiles are always a concern, and you can see that they do get purchased. A double shot has been picked up by my opponent as they buy more and more fortresses. So not really leaning into the melting point that much. Looks like instead of going for the crawler here, I want to buy more fortresses, and so I mobile beacon backwards my fortress to try and avoid this melting point, but also any response that Fairy might put there. And, well, he does buy another fortress. And now we just kind of staircase these fortresses downwards, as they do need to work together with my Fangs. I am lacking some chaff over here, I won't lie. It is good when you play Fang carry to also have some crawlers in the mix, because, well, your Fangs are quite important, and even though they can be chaff, they also need to deal some DPS. And yeah, look at that in the middle, right? Lack of chaff, good missile, takes down my Fangs, and the enemy fortresses immediately fight back. On the right, we're definitely taking a bit longer to take in than I would have hoped. But, well, my fortress with the double shot, or not the double shot, the overload rather, doing really well as I'm being invited for a 1v1 there. Probably should turn that off. Here we go. Fortresses taking down the right side, but the left has an incredible amount of Mustangs, so not sure if we'll be able to get through all of that. Again, the overload does help, but fortress still not exactly meant to clear chaff, and we will lose round number 8. Do pick up a level there, though. Level 3 fortress available. Amplifying core, improved firepower, all great items. I decided to pick up the Am core. It's not my favorite item anymore. I think it is a little bit overpriced, but on a level 3 fortress and at this stage of the game when we have this much money, I don't mind spending that 200. I think it is worth it, especially when we're trying to make the difference in this mirror. Now we move over to the right as I decide to use my own oil. And the idea here was for me to light it on fire. I essentially wanted to move to the right and have all of those Mustangs that we saw survive last round run through the fire. I completely forget to buy a fire badger to light this on fire, so we'll just have the oil. Now, honestly, that's not even that bad because the slow itself is useful, but I wanted to light it on fire. That was my initial idea. I simply forgot. We also have more techs now on the fortresses with barrier being picked up. And it's just a great third tech to take at this point. When you have this many fortresses, the value is through the roof. And yeah, opponent goes for it as well, kind of unsurprisingly. As you can see, I add some more chaff. So crawler here in front, crawler here on the flank as well. Not really buying more fortresses because they're very expensive. And well, that third tech barrier cost me 900. But the chaff here is just kind of important, right? Like, the fortresses can already kill his units as long as I buy myself enough time, and that's exactly what those extra couple crawlers are going to be doing. And you can see here on the right, we immediately lock on to one of his fortresses. Despite it having the double shot and the photon coating item, my fortresses managed to win. Over here, we're moving into, of course, temp speed, helping out tremendously. That advanced power system from earlier helping out as well. And now the tower starts to become exposed. Ferry never leveled them, so the tower falls, 9 seconds of debuff. One fortress does go down, but that melting point is not going to survive much longer. And now we make it across to the left side with these fortresses still there and some fangs moving in. Of course, steel balls being spawned by this great item. We should be able to take the round. Will it be enough, though? 718 could be tricky. I have 700 available. Couple fangs would have to survive. But I do think we get there. Yes, we do. Minus 48. Just enough to beat Ferry. And another successful fang carry. Great game. I was quite happy with this. Somewhat unconventional. Typically, fang carry starts from a fang pack. And, you know, from round 1 onwards, you try and make this work. But there are some scenarios where you can pivot into it a bit later. Now, I say later. This game, we also went into it quite early with a round 2 elite fang. But it's less conventional, I'd say. Sometimes you can even do this late game if for some reason neither of you have fangs and you get a very high level fang drop. You can kind of just range them and start to use them as kind of Mustangs in a way. They're great late chaff. They're good against things like fangs. They're good against things like loose formation crawlers. And I mean, in this scenario, they're just great to push in with. Some crazy items being dropped there with the double spawn items. We picked up one as well. The nano repair kit, I mean, yeah. Kind of a crazy one, but I was happy with how it went. And, well, we were quite high hit point in the end. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about it. If you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest content, please consider subscribing. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.